One more thing. Did Nico Harrison just say the Mavs are just going to run it back? No. I'll explain why in today's One More Thing.
I'm here because I have to be.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine. Don't let his lightness take away from his quickness.
You can rest later. You're young.
I'm never a color here.
Wait. One more thing.
Yeah, welcome. You're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and your best friend covering the Dallas Mavericks for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, sports start stopping like we want them. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. We'll talk about Nico Harrison. He had a press conference over the weekend talking about some things that he wants to do. And one of those things he said is he talked about the priorities. He's named the 1A and 1B priority for the Mavericks in the offseason. So we'll talk about that. And he also said we're going to spend all the money. What does that mean? We're going to spend all the money. A couple other quotes that I found interesting from him. So we'll get into that. And this is exactly why I decided to start doing one more thing. This is a bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. Did the full episode with Reggie Atatula. Talked about the rumors around Jeremy Grant, Tobias Harris. If you missed that episode, go listen to that one. But I had more things to say. I had one more thing. So this is what I got. So let's start here. Nico Harrison did his exit interview over the weekend. Talked about how, the priorities for the Mavericks in the offseason and all that. And one of the first things he was asked about is what things do you need to do? What pieces do you need for this team to take another step? And it kind of sounded like he was saying they're just going to run it back. What do you think?
Really, I think we have the pieces. I think we just need to get better ourselves. Since I've been here, I've always, but our front office staff, we've always been looking to make it better, so we'll continue to do that. But the core is intact. If you look at our top 7-8 players that play the biggest minutes, I don't see anything happening with that.
Nothing happening with that. The core is intact. If you look at our top 7-8 players that played the biggest minutes, nothing is happening with that. To me, that could sound like, you know what? We're good. We're just going to run it back. He said, you know what? It's not about making big moves. It's about us getting better internally, which I found interesting that he said. But if you look at the Mavs like top 7 or 8, I'm going to go top 7 or 8 from the playoffs, which takes Tim Hardaway Jr. out of it. Because then it becomes Luka, Kyrie, PJ, Derrick Jones Jr. We'll talk about him in a minute, but that's kind of an iffy one. He's a free agent. He's the only one on this list that's a free agent. Dereck Lively, Gaffer, Josh Green, Maxey. With Derrick Jones Jr., that's 8 right there. So that's the 8. So he doesn't expect a lot to happen with any of those guys. The 7 or 8, he said. And so that leaves you with the Tim Hardaway Jr., what happens with Dante Exum, Jaden Hardy, and, and Omax, I guess. He doesn't expect a lot to change. The core is intact. Now, on one hand, you go, how could Nico Harrison they just got beaten 5 games in the NBA Finals. Didn't look like they were anywhere close to the Celtics at some points. How could they just sit back on rest on their laurels and not do anything? And he's got to make a move. How could he possibly? He just said the core is intact. And also, this team just made the finals. They were together for 4 months. So if you find yourself upset about that he doesn't seem like he's going to do anything, I would take that solace to think, first of all, Nico Harrison has made a move at every stage of the game. The first draft he had ever been a part of. He was on the job for not that long. Traded for Jaden Hardy. Or he did the draft. Nothing really happened. Every draft, every trade deadline, every free agency, something happens. The Mavs do something. He always has made moves. He has always put the team and said, all right, we need to make some kind of move. One of his first big moves he made, traded Porzingis for Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. That's a ballsy, gutsy move where he took a team that was like, all right, we've got a chance with him, and maybe Jalen Brunson gets better, and he traded him. Nico Harrison, my point here is that Nico Harrison is not afraid to make moves. So I would not just chalk this up to, we're going back. We're going backwards. This team is just going to run it back. This team is just going to run it back, and they're not going to make any moves, and this team doesn't want to win, and they're not serious about winning, and they're just going to plan powder, and they're just going to keep it the same way. The other thing is, so what? So what if they did? We all want them to make moves. I want them to make moves. I think that they have a couple holes they need to fix and some things that they need to get better at. The other thing is, they just made the finals. So what if they just run it back? This is a team that played together 4 months. That Celtics team, some of them have played together for 6 years. Luka and Kyrie have played like 50 games together. Now more after the playoffs, now I think about it. They have not played that many games together. What if they run it back? If he says the top 7 or 8 is intact and they trade Tim Hardaway to bring back Derrick Jones Jr., let's say they only trade Tim Hardaway so that they could bring back Derrick Jones Jr. They keep it as it is. They run it back, and their big quote-unquote addition is some more chemistry and continuity. Maybe Olmax takes a step. Maybe Hardy takes a step. Lively takes a step. Maybe Luka takes a step. One of the big things that Nico Harrison said is he wants everyone to come back 10 to 15% better. Players, staff, coaches, everybody. Come back 10 to 15% better. And is it so bad for the Mavericks to just internally be like, let's just all get better together? Would that be so terrible? As long as they're not taking a step back, to me, I don't think that's so bad. I want them to make a move. I want them to add another ball handler. I want them to add another offensive creator. I want them to add a better point of attack defender. I want them to add another shooter that's not Tim Hardaway. I want them to add something like that for sure. Do they need to? Maybe. I think if they have any injuries on this team, it becomes very tough for them to replace some of these guys. But I think if you take this quote and you go, man, I think Nico just said they're not going to make any major moves. First of all, I don't believe it. But if it is true, I think it might be fine. How wild is that? It might be fine if they do that. Might be fine if they just keep it intact. He says, I don't see anything happening with that. They keep the top 8 players intact. They move Tim Hardaway. Figure out something. Maybe he considered Dante Exum as part of the top 8, and maybe it's somebody else. But yeah, even if you go top 8 in the regular season, like Max season there, but Exum is not, Hardy is not. It's interesting. It's interesting how you could take it. You could take it one of two ways. Let me know in the comment section which way you took that quote. The core is intact. If you look at our top 7 players, maybe we just need to get better. We have the pieces. We just need to get better ourselves. That was the quote. We have the pieces. We just need to get better ourselves. How did you take that quote? Did you take it as they're just going to run it back, or did you take it as, well, we've got a good group here. We just want to build on it. We don't want to tear anything down. We just want to build on it. We don't have to make any major moves. We don't want to do the thing where you're like, all right, we did this, and now let's trade Gafford or PJ Washington or Derrick Jones Jr. sign and trade. Like, you don't want to just like mess it up for the sake of just trying to move forward by any means necessary. I'm curious what you guys think about that. Let me know in the comment section how you took that quote. But I think either way, if you took it as upset that the Mavs won't do anything, or if you took it as they're just going to run it back, see what happens. I think the Mavs are in a good spot. They can make some moves on the edges, try to get better internally, and I don't think that's such a bad plan. For once, I don't think that's such a bad plan. Coming up, let's talk about their plan for the offseason, though. They do have priorities. Nico Harrison told us exactly what one of those priorities are. We'll talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. It's the formula for winning an NBA championship. It's also what keeps your ride or die car, truck, suburban, SUV alive. They have all kinds of things to level up your vehicle and maintain it with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, things like that. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million different parts to choose from for your number one ride or die. You always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. All the parts and the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, back here on the One More Thing Locked On Mavs bonus episode of the day, talking about the Nico Harrison press conference, what the Mavs are going to do in the offseason. I had some more stuff to say, and I wanted to hear from Nico Harrison. I wanted to play the clips. I wanted to hear it all. We wanted to talk all about it. We talked about the core, keeping the core intact, the top 7 or 8. That's fascinating. Nico Harrison also told us about the priorities for the team, and he was asked a question about Derrick Jones Jr. The question is, what's your optimism as far as being able to work out a deal with Derrick Jones Jr.? This is what Nico Harrison had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we're going to do it, but he's a priority. He's priority 1A and 1B. I think he fits in with our team. He loves it here. We have to figure out, obviously, the dynamics to get him to stay. But, yeah, that's a priority, and we'll do what we have to do to get it done.
So what are the other priorities this summer? You mentioned 1A, 1B.
No, I said he's 1A and 1B.
Oh, he's 1A. He's both. I got you.
Yeah.
He's both. He's both priority 1A and 1B. Because he's the only player from their rotation that is going to be a free agent. And so I don't think that he's saying that he's so important that if they lose him, but they can't take a step backwards. I also found it fascinating that Nico Harrison said, I don't know how we're going to do it, because that's the position they're in right now. Slightly and I talked about this the other day on the offseason overview. They don't have enough money right now to stay in the tax bracket that they want to stay in and bring back Derrick Jones Jr. They have to figure something out. And so he doesn't know how they're going to do it. It takes two to tango with a trade. And so you want to trade the Tim Hardaway Jr. contract, trade it to somebody, get off some of that money, re-sign Derrick Jones Jr. But the fact that Derrick Jones Jr. is priority 1A and 1B, to me, is one of two things. One, the Mavericks cannot take a step back. They cannot, right? I'm cool with what we said at the beginning of this episode where I said, man, if they just run it back, that could be fine. Not great, but fine. But they can't take a step back. That's unacceptable. They can't do that. They can't take a step back. I'm not really for you know what? We think Omax and AJ Lawson can fill the Derrick Jones Jr. void. And with Dante Exum, we'll take a step forward. And okay. that I don't think is tenable. If Omax is going to come in and take a role in this rotation, as some of you think that he will, and you may be right, and I hope you are, because I love that guy. If Omax is going to come and take a step forward and take a spot in this rotation, he's got to take it. It can't be given to him, I don't think. Derrick Jones Jr. came and took his spot and took it again. Took it in training camp and then took it when Daniel Gafford came and was traded, and he lively ended up being better than Gafford in the playoffs, which is crazy still. But you can take it that way, where he's like, all right, the Mavs cannot take a step back. Nico Harrison also is not an idiot. Very smart individual.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
Very smart individual. And he knows that Derrick Jones Jr. is listening to this stuff. And how many times do we hear coaches say really great things about players and you go, really? That guy? Nico Harrison saying that Derrick Jones Jr. is priority 1A and 1B is a message to Derrick Jones Jr. 100%. 100%. Sending a message to him. He fits with our team. He loves it here. He's a priority. He's priority 1A and 1B. Feels good. Feels good as a free agent. We're making you a priority, man. He's never been a priority before. Think about Derrick Jones Jr.'s path in the NBA. And now here's the thing about Derrick Jones Jr. that I meant my message to the subtexters when I was talking about this earlier, is that Derrick Jones Jr. has bounced around, has not really found a good spot, been part of a trade, been signed here and there. He had a pretty good deal. In Portland, he was making $9 million. In Chicago, he made $9 million. He's only made $26, $27, $28 million total in his career. Now, okay, it's only for an NBA player, but he made like $28 million. This is his chance. This is his chance to make a double-digit, $1 million a year deal, a $10 million, $11 million, $12 million a year deal. This is his shot. I don't know you're going to get a better chance than you just started in the finals. And so they've got to pay him. They've got to pay him to bring him back. The Mavericks can't lose him, and this is Derrick Jones Jr.'s shot. And so trying to make him a priority and making him seem like a priority, he is a priority, but making him, making it apparent that he is a priority and public that he is a priority, I think is a good thing. Absolutely. The next quote I wanted to mention was about spending all the money. This one really perked my ears up about because I just said the Mavs may not do anything in free agency. And I think that could be fine. But Nico Harrison kind of contradicted it a little bit later. Here's what he said, and I'll tell you exactly what he means about it.
It doesn't sound like you're planning to spend a bunch of money in the offseason, and there would be salary cap constraints anyway. I'm just curious.
We're going to spend all the money we have in offseason.
Well, that gets to the question that with new ownership, with the Adelson and Dumont families, what's your sense of their commitment to spending what would be necessary on the player salary front to go where the franchise wants to go?
Yeah, I don't think money's going to be an object. I think it's doing it the right way, bringing in people with good character. The money is not going to be the limiting factor. They want to win. We're going to be smart about it, though. But I don't expect we're not having money conversations.
Money is not a factor. We're going to spend all the money we have. I don't think money's going to be an object. Money's not going to be a limiting factor. We're not having money conversations. Those are all things Nico Harrison just said. All these quotes, I'm taking one of two ways, right? First, here's the first one. It's the same for this one. First one, oh my God, money's not an object anymore. We don't have to deal with we don't want to spend for a team that's not good enough. Oh man, we don't have to talk about money. We're not talking about money anymore. It's not an issue. It shouldn't have been an issue with Cuban, but then sometimes it seemed like it was, and sometimes like secretly we're like, all right, do we actually not pay for that guy because we don't have any money? Not a conversation anymore. Awesome. The other way, though, money's not a problem anymore because of the new CBA. This is not just Golden State Warriors spend as much money, and the only thing that suffers is the owner's pocketbook. That's not where we are anymore because now the team suffers. Look at what the Suns are going to have to do this offseason. Square pegs, round holes. All these issues they got to deal with. And not a lot of ways to do it. They got one draft pick. They got a couple of contracts they can trade. They can only trade one player at a time. You can't trade like Nurkic plus Nas Little for something else. Can't do it. There's so many different loopholes. They have like hoops. There's so many hoops they have to jump through. Money's not an issue because this is where we are in the CBA. What Nico said though, we're gonna be smart about it. Of course, every GM says that always, but they've only got a certain amount of money to spend. Money's not an issue because money is not an issue. It's not about the amount of money. It's not about the amount of money you have. It's not about paying the luxury tax itself. That's what it used to be. That's old. That's gone. That's old thinking. Oh, why won't ownership just pay up? If ownership pays up, the Mavs will be so stuck in where they are. They won't be able to make other moves like the Suns are right now. If you're going to do that kind of move, you got to make sure that it's the team. And that's why they don't know how they're going to sign Derrick Jones Jr. back. Because you could just sign him because you've got his rights. You've got his bird rights. You could just sign Derrick Jones Jr. straight up. But then you could go over the second luxury tax, the second apron, and then all of a sudden you're stuck. And then what do? You can't do that on a team like this. You gotta have the flexibility. That's why Nico Harrison said we're going to do it smart. Money's not a problem because that's not the problem anymore. That's not what it is. It's not about just how do we pay. It's not just about how do we accumulate enough money to pay this. You heard the reports of like the Golden State Warriors are signing, a player to a 10-day, and it's going to cost them 10 times the amount of money that they're signing him to. You remember those talk? It's not the case anymore. I mean, it will, but that's not the biggest. That's not the biggest thing that hurts them anymore. As a team, money is not an issue. Because there's a different issue now. It's about how do you navigate this new CBA, this new luxury tax levels, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about it a lot because I think it matters. I think teams are like acting like it matters a lot now. There you go. The last thing that I thought Nico Harrison said that was really funny. I don't have the clip, but he was asked about the Bronny James quote that he's like an uncle to Bronny James. And he can't talk about any stuff like that. He can't comment on any player that's not in his team. He can't do that. But he smiled really big when he was asked about Bronny. He's like an uncle to him. He smiled real big and was like, I can't comment on it, but that was it. He smiled real big, which I thought was funny. Imagine him thinking about like the times he spent with LeBron and Bronny and all that. There you go. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me on the One More Thing. Being part of this show. Bonus episode. If you didn't listen to the episode with me and Reggie, go check it out. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. The One More Thing.